before we start, a little bit about today's sponsor. I think many of you will really appreciate the sponsor of today's episode. It's a way to get everyone off the sofa and learning something new together. It's been so meaningful for us to find something that encourages that kind of curiosity without needing a screen. It's called the Future Explorers Club, and it's a monthly letter subscription that helps children discover the world in a really thoughtful and meaningful way. Each month, your child receives a beautifully illustrated letter from a child visiting a real destination, places like Oman, Tasmania, the Swiss Alps, and the letters are sensory and story-led, helping children picture the landscapes, the traditions, and everyday life of families living somewhere that is completely different from them. And there's a new destination each month. But what I really love is that it doesn't stop at the reading. Each month includes simple, hands-on activities too, things like local recipes to cook together, arts and crafts inspired by the location, as well as a map that you can explore as a family. It naturally creates those slow, meaningful moments around the kitchen table, learning, chatting, laughing, asking questions. It's not flashy, gimmicky, or overstimulating. It's gentle. It's curious. It opens conversations about the wider world in a way that feels warm and connected. If you'd like to try it, I have a code that gives you £5 off their 3, 6 or 12-month subscription. And it also supports the Raising Mums podcast at the same time. So just use the discount code RaisingMums5 at checkout. I really love finding things that help us pause our busy routines and give our children a wider look at the world. And this feels like a really special way to do that. So if you'd like to try it out, visit futureexplorersclub.com and use the code RaisingMums5 at checkout. The great scholar Ibn Khaldun once said, "The past resembles the future more than one drop of water resembles another." I've been thinking about that lately, how the person we were at the start of a journey often holds the keys to where we are going. I was cleaning out my son's wardrobe with him last week, and we came across an old notebook of his, something from when he was 3 or 4 years old. It was from that time when we were just beginning to discover home education, and we were tentatively considering it as an option, but we hadn't committed to anything yet. And this notebook that we found, it reminded me of what a joyful experience homeschooling was for us back then. Without any pressure, really. We were literally just making up as we went along. And this notebook that we found, it reflected that. So if you can imagine this, it looked like your typical A4 lined notebook, like the cheapest thing you can find in the supermarket. I think it must have been an old one of mine or maybe of my husband's. And at the top of each page, we had written a letter from the alphabet. So the first page had A, the second page had B written at the top, the third page had C, etc. And then underneath, my son had copied out that letter a few times. And under each letter, he'd written a few words that he knew that started with that letter in his cute little 3, 4-year-old handwriting. And we used to get junk mail from a supermarket here called Farm Foods. I don't know if any of you get mail from them as well. So we took that junk mail and he had cut out pictures from those adverts and stuck them into the appropriate page in that notebook. So carrots went on the C page and fish fingers went on the F page and a picture of sweets went on the S page. We were not following any kind of curriculum. We weren't following the advice of somebody online or something we'd seen on Instagram. We were literally just making it up as we went along and having a lot of fun doing it. And, seeing those pages brought back so many happy memories of that time. It was a time of exploration for both of us, learning what learning can look like. I had no knowledge of the Charlotte Mason philosophy, of Montessori, even of the national curriculum. I was just looking at my son and observing him and testing things out, seeing what worked and what didn't, and having so much fun along the way. And no doubt, a decade has passed and I've probably forgotten some of the harder moments. And there must have been quite a lot of them, because at that time I had a toddler to look after and I was pregnant at the same time. But I remember that was the year that we fell in love with home education. That time without any pressure, that time of gentle exploration. But somewhere down the line, it stopped being so fun. And I guess that's to be expected with anything. But at times I fell into the trap, like so many of us, of just ticking boxes, of just getting the next thing done. And that joy and that creativity was forgotten. Back then, it was more than a decade ago, there were hardly any home ed curricula available here in the UK. Most people had to get things shipped over from the US, or they made their own hodgepodge of things from school resources or from the homeschool bloggers that came out of the United States. There were hardly any of them online who were Muslim or who were in the UK. And whilst, yes, that did have its downsides, there were also benefits to this lack of resources. One of the biggest benefits was that it made you creative. It forced you as a homeschooling mum to think more carefully about what your child was learning and how you presented that material or you taught that material, and to really think, okay, is this actually working? In a way that sometimes you don't do when you have a boxed curriculum or a curriculum laid out for you and you're just blindly following along. And looking back at those times when homeschooling had become just another job that needed to get done, just another box to tick off before I moved on to quote unquote more important things, that was the time where I had stopped being creative and had stopped enjoying the process. And that is not to say anything negative about the different methods of home education, the different curricula, the different pedagogies. Many of you know that we follow a Charlotte Mason inspired homeschool. I love it. I recommend that to anyone who asks. And learning about the different ways to approach home education, I think, is an important way to improve yourself as a home educator and improve the education that you're providing for your children. But sometimes you can get so caught up in the little things, the minutiae, is that the right word? I don't know. But sometimes we can get so caught up in these little things, the little particular intricacies of a certain pedagogy, the certain intricacies of how to do narration in a Charlotte Mason homeschool, etc. You know what I'm talking about. That we forget the bigger picture. And one of the key things that makes a homeschool successful is joy, the mother's joy. I can tell you this from more than a decade of experience, from working with hundreds of homeschooling mothers, that when the mum is enjoying home education, the children are enjoying home education. And that is the key to doing this long term. Maybe right now you're not enjoying home educating your children. You're just going through the motions every day, just getting by, making sure that at least something gets done. But maybe this week you can start to bring some joy into your homeschool. Maybe like it used to be when you first started. Okay, I know some of you will be thinking, Gemma, it's not meant to be fun every day. Life is not fun every day. Homeschooling is the same. And yes, you're right. But listen, look, the more we can enjoy this time that we have with our children, the more sustainable home education will be. What does that mean? It means the more likely you will be able to home educate your children in the long term. The more you can enjoy this, the more your children will enjoy this, and the more likely you will be homeschooling for a long, long time, inshallah. But if every day is a struggle, if every day is difficult, and you've lost that joy, let's be realistic. It's not very likely that this is going to be a long-term decision for your family. So maybe it's time to start looking at ways to bring joy back into your homeschooling days. Maybe you're like us, When we first started, we used to go for these impromptu walks around the park, and the kids would collect all kinds of sticks and stones and leaves. Quite often those sticks were too big to even fit in the boot of our car. But those were beautiful days. Maybe you used to head to the library like we did on a regular basis and just hang out whilst your children browsed through the books. Maybe at the end of it all, they didn't want anything. Or maybe they came back with a stack of 20 books. But it didn't matter either way, because you knew either way they were learning. They were learning that books and education are valuable, even if this week they came away empty-handed. Or maybe like us, you used to pack up your breakfast and head to the nearby pond, and you would eat your shop-bought croissants and pancakes sitting on a log while the sun was still rising. Whether it's watching documentaries on a rainy day, doing lots of crafts or singing, meeting up with friends every week, I would love for you to think about how you can bring joy back into your homeschool days, back into your life. Think about it and try a few things out this week, and I'd love to know what works for you. Sometimes taking a step back and remembering what used to work so well is the best way to move forward. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope that something from this episode resonated with you. And inshallah, I'll be back soon with another episode. Assalamu alaikum.